And then 2008, like when the economy crashed and especially like the real estate industry took a hit, like we had downsized from like the $1 million home, it was like 5,000 square feet to it was me, my dad, my mom, and my younger brother to like I think like 1,000 square foot apartment.
Mm.
So we had got rid of a bunch of stuff, like downsized, and like it was just kind of a big switch. And I knew like um one thing my dad always would tell me was like I have to be a leader and like eventually like he's gonna have to pass the torch to me. So it kind of just set my goals high and I already had seen like, oh, it's possible like to have this type of lifestyle. You just have to work harder, make those connections. So like I was confident, I seen him do it. I'm like, I can do it too. And especially the way technology is going and the tech industry is growing at a rapid rate, this honestly is the best way to kind of get in between that flow of money.
Hey, what's going on? It's Matthew, and welcome to Henosis. If you enjoy self development content and you enjoy listening to podcasts or even watching it, then do me a huge favor subscribe to this channel, comment below any questions or your favorite parts from the episodes or any video that we upload on here. I really appreciate you for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Boom. All right. I'm gonna do your intro later on in the podcast, but Sharriff, welcome to Henosis, brother.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you
Awesome,
for
man.
having me.
Yes, sir. I want to start just kind of by telling the story of how I even found you and how we even. I mean, we barely know each other, but I am super, super thankful for you, bro. Um, just a little backstory on like how I know Sharif and how this podcast even came about. Maybe it was back in February, a little before February. I was working two jobs, right? I was working at Starbucks and I was working at Whole Foods, doing that two job thing. And for those who are listening or watching, you know how that grind is. You know, when you're working two jobs, it is a grind, and it honestly it sucks, right?
It's training for sure.
It sucks. It's draining, like you said. It's soul sucking. It's all the adjectives you can think of that is just not good for your health. Like I felt like I was depressed, and you feel stuck. When you're working those two jobs, you feel like there's no way out, right? And
Facts.
so I was working these two jobs. I was super frustrated, and I knew like, man, this isn't me. Here I am, 27 years old. Like I'm just like, this is not me. I need to find something else. Like, because I have goals. I have goals. I have, just like I'm sure a lot of people do. They have goals. They have things that they want to accomplish, but sometimes there's things that get in the way of accomplishing those goals, right? And one day I was on TikTok and I was trying to find a job where I didn't where it wouldn't require college experience and it would pay me at least 50 grand, a year. Because I just needed something solid like that that would kind of give me the foundation I needed. And
Exactly.
lo and behold, I just typed in, I forgot what I typed in, but I typed something in on TikTok and you popped up.
Hey, that's lit.
And it was, bro. And you were promoting this whole like tech sales, work from home job. You don't need a college degree. And obviously, you had your Wealth University course or community that you were promoting as well. And a lot of times when you come across those types of people on the internet overall, like they're trying to hustle you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not legit. But I was at a point where let me give this guy a shot because I looked at it as investing into myself. And just like investing,
Hello.
sometimes you're gonna have a bad investment. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're gonna have a good. You're gonna hit. And sure enough, you were an investment that was worth it, bro. I
Yeah,
forget
10x.
10x, yes, exactly, bro. Completely changed my life because now I'm working a job where I work from home. I'm doing tech sales, and We could get into this in a second, but it's super competitive, right?
Definitely.
It's an industry that's
Definitely.
super competitive, and it's hard to get into. But I followed every single thing in your course and everything that you were teaching all the students that's a part of your community, and yeah, life changing, bro. I feel a million times happier working that one
Love to
job.
hear it.
But you're an answered prayer, bro. I don't know if you know that, but you're an answered prayer, and
Man, I love to hear that. For real, bro.
no, I mean that, bro. And I'm sure every single I'm not the only person you've helped. You know what I mean? I know there's plenty of other students that you've helped accomplish. Getting that job in tech sales. But yeah, man, Sharif is an answered prayer. Everybody, if you're listening, and he is a lot younger than me. Maybe not a lot, but I think there's like five or
Yeah,
six
22.
years. 22.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're not that much younger, but you definitely are off to a great start, and you know you have yourself set up for um, just a good foundation. You know what I mean, for the rest of your life and your
Definitely,
20s.
bro.
You're gonna be able to enjoy your 20s a lot more than I have, because I feel like I'm late. You know what I mean? I feel like I have a late start to like building a foundation for myself. In my 20s, I spent a lot of time just trying a bunch of different shit and trying to see
I
what
feel like that's
sticks.
still good. Like you just got all that different experience and all that knowledge too. So
Hmm.
I mean, I even myself, I feel like anybody who's like successful, like will have that kind of imposter syndrome because I feel like sometimes I'm late too, like to the game. Like,
Hmm.
as you know, like I dropped out of college too, but I spent 2 years like every day just sitting in the math lab with the tutors trying to learn calculus for computer science. And I thinking back, I wish I would have even knew about tech sales earlier. Like if I knew about it straight out of high school, I would have tried my hardest to get hired at 18.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's I definitely, if anyone's listening and you're probably like around my age or maybe you're between Sharif's age and mine. Yeah, just try a bunch of shit, man. There's the internet. I keep like this. One of the things I'm passionate about is like if you have access to, if you have a smartphone, if you're on Instagram, TikTok, if you're able to consume that type of content, you should be able to find something that works for you, like I did with you. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But I want to get into kind of your story. You know what I mean? That was kind of a brief introduction, but it doesn't really paint the picture of where you came from and whatnot. I know you also have your real estate license, right?
Yes.
Let's not start there, but let's just tell us your story. Like, tell us how you got to where you are right now, sitting in front of me and having this podcast.
Right, definitely. So, I mean, honestly, real estate is a good place to start just because I started at such an early age. So, I got licensed when I was 18, but I was really immersed in real estate since I was a child. My dad did real estate, he's done it for probably the last 30 plus years. And when I was around 14 or 15, he would get these homes in the like Detroit tax foreclosure auction. That's where we're from. Like we're in Michigan. And he would have me put them on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and he would probably get them. The auction started at like $500, and then I would list them, sell them maybe for $2,000, and I would just take the calls. I would, like I said, market them on like different online platforms. And at 14 years old, whenever I sold one, he was throwing me like $300 or $400. So I'm like, whoa, this is a lot of money. Like I'm
Heck
buying
yeah.
like PlayStation and like all that stuff. So I'm like, I love sales. I love real estate. When I get older, this is what I want to do. And then as well, like um, I would say my father's influence, and then as well, like what kind of influenced me more of like the tech side was my mom, just because so my dad, he was always like the entrepreneur of the family, like and as an entrepreneur you can have really really good months, really good years, or sometimes it'll be down. And my mom, she was in nursing. Now she actually works from home too,
Hmm.
but she was in nursing like for the University of Michigan. And just seeing like and like talking to her, seeing how she always had something stable, she always was putting money aside, like investing in stocks. It kind of brought me to tech sales, which is the best of both worlds. You can get that base salary and still have like something guaranteed coming in every month where you can put money aside, have your bills paid too. But on top of it, you can earn those commissions, and it still has that like sales entrepreneurial feel of if you have a really good day on the phones or you just been crushing it, you're being productive, you're gonna get paid extra for that too. So honestly, I would say like both of those influences is what brought me to the tech sales space. And then just the pandemic too. Like, I feel like for everyone, the pandemic was like a really big reset and it just gave me some time to really think. And it was some more advice from my dad. Like, I wrote down all my likes, all my dislikes in a journal. And pretty much I just envisioned how does a life with all my likes look like? And then let me go after that. So, pandemic, I failed a couple classes. Calculus 2 was killing me.
Mm.
Computer Science 200 was killing me. I had the real estate license on the side. I'm like, look, if I just put all my energy into sales and bet on myself, I know this will take me a lot further. So my first year full time, I did like 2 million real estate sales in volume.
Sheesh.
Yeah, so it was crazy though. I had like so I sold $1 million home. It was one of the craziest deals. Like I wanted to get out of real estate because you're the last person to get paid. We had like a buyer have a heart attack where we couldn't even close on the deal like 2 weeks before we were supposed to close. So
Mm.
like my client was scrambling, their client had just ghosted us. Like we never got the earnest money deposit. And it was just a lot of stress. And I think I only made maybe $6,000 from the deal, and it took me 6 months to sell it. So
Mm.
I'm like, I know I can sell. I know I can get these really good clients. Now, let me just find something to where maybe it's working from home and it's got more guaranteed money. And that's when I found out about tech sales, like literally from a TikTok. I applied to 200 of the account executive jobs. I didn't get any. And it was probably right before I was about to give up, like the last email. A recruiter was like, yeah, you'd be a lot more qualified for our SDR role. And that was all the hope I needed. So I just started applying another 200 SDR roles. I found a really great startup and eventually I got offered.
That's awesome, bro. What an incredible story. I mean, the fact that you were able to even sell like a $1 million home, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. And
that must have been wild.
it was super wild. I kind of missed on a couple points. Like while I was doing the real estate,
Mm.
and as well, like after I dropped out of college, because I know for a lot of young people, it's kind of scary. Like you're kind of going for your parents or like for your family because that's what worked for them in their generation. And really, they just want you to be stable. But
Mm.
um, it kind of like at that point I had to move out too. So I was living in like a studio apartment. I was working at Amazon warehouse, the like 3 a.m. to probably 1 in the afternoon shift. And
Mm-hmm.
then like if I would get off early, I would try and trade stocks in the morning, cold call, find clients for real estate. And it was like I was working like from sun up to sundown. I remember when I listed the $1 million house, I had to go 2 days in a row on the listing appointment and like sit, talk to the family, get to know them, meet at dinner with them, and just make them comfortable enough to let 21-year-old me sell their $1 million home. And we sat at dinner for like it was probably 5 p.m. to like 10 p.m. 2 days in a row. I remember like going back to like my studio apartment, getting back at like 10 p.m. like super excited because we signed them. And then I set my alarm for like 2 a.m. because I had to go in for a shift. So
Oh
it
man.
was just crazy. I was so ecstatic to just get hired in tech, not having that degree and not having really any tech experience. I'm like, I know if I did this myself, I could do it for a lot of other people who are in similar situations as me.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude. I also have my real estate license too, and I literally just got it. Um,
Right.
but yeah, no, I haven't experienced what you experienced yet, but that's definitely, like I said, selling at $1 million home is what every real estate agent wants to do, right? And
Yeah.
so that's incredible to hear that, and just to kind of no, just to even hear about that grind, after you said you closed the deal, and then you went to work the next day at Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, we signed the deal. So that was the beginning of it. Like we
Man.
signed them for the contract so that we could market it and sell it. And then yeah, the next like that night I had to go into Amazon and like literally I would just scan the boxes, like move them and listen to podcasts like while I was there, like just working. So I was just gaining knowledge. I was putting together a plan.
Hmm.
Because I knew like having my real estate license, my goal was to get out of the studio apartment and then get a condo. So I made sure I had the W-2s from Amazon. And then I eventually like found my own condo, and probably within a month, I had like moved out. I would say within maybe 3 months, I moved out, dropped out of college, got like a really big client, and then eventually I like closed on my house within like 30 to 60 days. So it was a crazy time. And I really was just like making bets on myself of like, as soon as I get this house, because I can't get it with the like real estate 1099 commission,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna quit Amazon and just go all in with the real estate. So
Mm.
it was super scary, but it turned out to work.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes that's like the common theme. Like whenever you hear like a lot of success stories, they always say, "I just went all in on myself." You know, um, I just betted on myself, and it seems like that works. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
scary. It's scary, obviously,
it's
right?
super
But
scary.
it has to. It has to be. You know, if it doesn't scare you, then I feel like it's not a big enough goal. You know, or a
That's a fact.
big
You
enough
got to be
dream.
outside your comfort zone to grow.
Absolutely, and that is growth, right? When you're not
Yeah,
comfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable is growth, and that's pretty dope, bro. I want to get into like the mindset, because obviously you're doing all this right,
hmm,
and you know you watched your dad be an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you've seen the good and the bad of that life, and you've seen your mom, um, you know, have the life she's lived as far as like her professional career, um, and then I think from the outside looking in, it almost seems like um, you know, you may not have you had a pretty good like solid foundation with both your parents, right?
yeah.
So what was your mindset like? Why did you want to, um, I guess, pursue that lifestyle of tech sales, you know, or the entrepreneur life? You know what I mean? Like, what made you want to have this drive to like, oh, I gotta be successful kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's a few different things that would make me want that, but I would say for sure, like just the way I was raised and like grew up when I was super young, um, probably I would say around like the ages of 5, like that's when my dad, he was going crazy with the real estate. Like he
Mm-hmm.
was, I think we had like $1 million home. Like he was driving like a Mercedes, like we were taking trips and like we were going to Miami, Jamaica, like all like kind of around that time. So I was kind of used to like that lifestyle when I grew up, and it was fun, obviously. And then 2008, like when the economy crashed, and especially like the real estate industry took a hit, like we had downsized from like the $1 million home. It was like 5,000 square feet to it was me, my dad, my mom, and my younger brother to like I think like 1,000 square foot apartment.
Mm.
So we had got rid of a bunch of stuff, like downsized, and like it was just kind of a big switch. And I knew like um one thing my dad always would tell me was like I have to be a leader, and like eventually like he's gonna have to pass the torch to me. So it kind of just set my goals high, and I already had seen like, oh, it's possible like to have this type of lifestyle. You just have to work harder, make those connections. So like I was confident, I seen him do it. I'm like, I can do it too. And especially the way technology is going and the tech industry is growing at a rapid rate, this honestly is the best way to kind of get in between that flow of money.
For sure. It's pretty dope. Excuse me. I've been fighting this throat thing, bro. I don't know what's going on, but
Man, the spring allergy season.
I know. But it's dope that you had that with your dad. You know what I mean? It 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 really paints a picture that um, you saw that it was possible. You know what I mean? And I think that's it. When you are able to see that it's possible, you can definitely achieve it. You know what I mean? Excuse me.
That's a big thing. Like
Oh.
even with there's a few stories I've heard, like even when I forget how it goes, but the first person who run like under a 5 or 6 minute mile, like before that, no one had ever did it. But once someone saw that as it was possible, like the records just started getting broken and everyone was running under a 7 minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's exactly 7 minutes, maybe it was like 5 or 6 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
like as soon as you see something's possible, it just gives you that hope and like that belief of if they can do it, I can do it. So that's a big thing for sure. I agree.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's how I felt when I joined your program. I started applying kind of like you did. I'll be honest, I didn't send out 200 applications, but I was doing as much as I can with working two jobs, you know what I mean? And so I would always, before I started work at one job, I would apply, you know what I mean? Send out, send out the application, send out my resumes, cold emailing,
Right.
um, hiring managers and whatnot. But yeah, once I did get those interviews started coming in, and then I eventually landed the job. I was like, damn, like that was fucking dope because
Yeah.
I I honestly like there was a part of me I was like, man, this could work and this could not work. You know what I mean? But I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted it so bad enough to like, I wanted to get out of those two jobs. You know what I mean? I wanted something else, and so yeah, when you do see the fruit of your labor, you know what I mean? You're like, damn, like it gives you that extra boost, that extra level
Yeah.
of
Those small wins
confidence.
add up.
Absolutely, and it kind of gives you momentum going into the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, at the as a current SDR, like my confidence is high. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Yeah.
like I still feel like the underdog. You know what I mean? Like I got so much to prove. You know what I mean? I want to talk about. You said you joined. You first started applying as an account executive, right?
Right.
Um, Now we're shifting into your professional career as in tech sales. You started applying for account executives, and then obviously they kind of directed you to go towards being an SDR. Um, what are your, I guess, what was it like when you first became SDR? And for those who don't know what SDR is, a sales development rep, and pretty much it's remote sales. You know what I mean? Which is kind of unheard of in of itself too. Like remote sales, it's kind
It is.
of it's new,
No one
honestly.
talks about it.
Yeah. So let's tell us about your experience as SDR.
Yeah. So for sure. Um, I would say when I first started, it was kind of scary and I was definitely nervous. I was at a startup and there wasn't too much structure there. So it was, I know for sure, the one thing I did, like I started on a Wednesday and like by that Friday, I had received like my first check. I think it was like $700. I'm like, just for 2 days.
Oh
So like
damn.
the next one was, I think like $1,500. So that kind of had me hyped,
Hmm.
but it wasn't really any like training structure or anything like that. I just had came in and started prospecting, and I was using like a spray and pray method of let me just reach out to as many people as possible. They did teach me a lot of like how to automate your emails, so that's all I was focused on. And then they taught me about lead gen too. But I would say it probably wasn't until like 3 months of me being in that role and just kind of like learning with my team, going through different obstacles until one of my managers came in, and he taught me a lot of like personalization over just mass outreach. So it was more of like a quality over quantity. In sales, you still obviously it's a numbers game, so you still want to have those
Hmm.
numbers. But once we set up the automations to have the emails going out, and like have my like just pipeline kind of steady, then he taught me how to focus on like looking through people's LinkedIn profile, maybe send them a LinkedIn video or look through their interests. Like a big one, a lot of people like Gary Vee. So I was big into Gary Vee. Like I had a couple of his ebooks. So if I seen someone was interested in Gary Vee on LinkedIn and they were like the marketing manager that I wanted to prospect, I would email them the free ebook. And then I would just say like, hey, uh, I see that you're interested in Gary Vee. I am too. This was a really good read. Here's his book for free. Just let me know what you think. And in the meantime, the reason I actually was reaching out to you was because that I saw you were the marketing manager at X company and we sell ads. If you have like 5 more minutes to talk, here's my calendar. And I got a bunch of meetings just from that. So that was the biggest thing that I learned and the biggest tip I would give to anyone who's becoming an SDR, or a BDR, which business development representative, sales development representative. Really, it's the same duties and tasks. You're going to be trying to schedule these meetings or generate leads for like your account executives. But that's the biggest thing I would recommend is like being personalized with your outreach on top of the numbers is going to set you apart.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Where I'm at right now is, we have the we have to make 100 calls a day, right?
Right.
And then we have to book 8 demos a week. I haven't yet done that yet, but right there, what you just said is so valuable. You want to make sure it's quality or quantity, which is hard to balance because you definitely know, like in sales, like you said, it is a numbers game. You know what I mean? It's gonna take a lot of no's to get that one yes, right?
It is. I have another tip too. So,
Hmm.
I mean, because it was a startup, I did have like a lot more freedom. So we didn't even have like a set amount of dials we had to make a day. So how my manager taught me to structure my campaign was it was 9 different touches. The first 4 or 5 were emails, and I would get creative with the subject lines. So I would say like meeting request, their first name plus my first name, and then like the third touch would be like, hey, hopefully I'm not reaching out to the wrong person, but if you're looking for some good karma, like please tell me who I should be reaching out to, and then like add like a funny GIF, something like that.
Mm.
And then touches what 5 and 6 were LinkedIn like connections, a video message, and then by the time I got to like 7, 8, or 9, those were my cold calls. But instead, because they had seen either my emails come through, my LinkedIn connection, or maybe a video, at the least they could put a face to the name, or they had just recognized some of the information. So it was really like a warm call. A lot of like I got a lot of kind of meetings just from that, like, oh
Mm.
yeah, I did see your emails. What were you talking about? And then I would just go into it and I'm like, I know I called you, sure you're busy. Let's just schedule some time next week. I've got maybe Tuesday at 4 p.m. or I've got like 10 in the morning. What works better for you? And that made a big difference of because I felt like a lot of times, even with real estate, like I would just spin my wheels. I was doing like 300 dials a day as a real estate
Hmm.
agent. So
Mm.
if I would have known about the personalization, that probably would have made a big difference too.
Yeah, definitely. Personalization is definitely um, it obviously because what it does it makes someone feel they don't feel like a number that way. You know what I mean? And obviously, when that comes off through your outreach, they're gonna be more inclined and more interested in what you have to say or offer. That's definitely a huge tip. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, I'm just thinking about how I would do it at my job right now. So it's like it's funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, that's huge. Personalization and making yourself stand out. Um, and then that meeting request headline or subject line is
Mhm.
key, bro. That does
Yeah.
definitely. I sent that to all the hiring managers, and I got so much replies from that.
It's a cheat code, honestly.
It really
Even
is.
that itself, like, I know when you were in the program, like we had our team sending out the applications for you, and then like we set you up to do that outreach too. And I've seen so many students who like didn't even apply at the company, but just sent out like those automated emails and got the interview just simply from that. So it definitely makes you stand out. And it's literally like a task that you would do as an SDR. So if a company sees you're already doing that, it's going to make you a higher quality candidate easily.
Yeah, that's it right there. Like, if you're already doing a job before you get the job, why wouldn't a company at least bring you in for an interview? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, when you get the interview, that's one step. You know what I mean? For this job, there's usually multiple interviews, and so but the more reps you get with the interviews, the more comfortable you're going to be with all the other interviews. Um, but I kind of want to do a little bit of objection handling. Um,
Sweet.
so you're cold calling, right? And um, you get, oh, I'm not interested. What do you say to that?
Yeah. Usually, so what I'll say is like, first thing with real estate, what I would say is like, well, what is it that you're not interested in? And like just put it back on them because then they're like whatever the answer they get back is going to give you a lot. Like most of the time it's kind of hard to answer that because if when I was calling for sale by owners, their home was listed on Zillow, maybe it was on for 10 days or maybe it was on for 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew that I was the agent, but they were like, oh yeah, I'm not interested, we're already selling it ourselves. Well, I would just say like, well, what is it, are you not interested in getting your home sold? Then is it not on the market?
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, no, it is on the market, we do want it to be sold. And then I'll just go straight back into my
Your pitch, yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's
So
that's that's probably the most common objection you're gonna get. Oh, we're just not
definitely.
interested. And that's basically their way of saying like, I'm not trying to talk to you right now.
Yeah, either that or like I don't have time. And I,
Yeah.
I love when they say like, yeah, I just don't have the time right now. I'd be like, oh yeah, perfect. Let's just schedule some time for next week then. I've got 4 p.m. or it's 5 p.m. What works better? Like I just go
Hmm.
straight to trying to set the meeting then.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's tough because they're already trying to rush you off, and then setting up the time. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They get all like frazzled and stuff. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So not interested, and then one you're gonna get as well is oh, we already have all that already, or we're we like what we have. You know what I mean? Have you come across those before?
Definitely. Usually when they say that, I'll kind of that's when like the knowledge that you have on the industry comes into play. Because if they say like, oh yeah, we've already got this software, then all you go into is like, oh yeah, I've got a bunch of clients who had told me that they already have software X and they said it was doing a really good job. And honestly, that's why I was calling because usually people who are already using that instead of just having a good software, our software actually is great and it actually works
Mm-hmm.
with that. And that's really why I was calling because if that's working really well for you, then I believe our solution is going to be extremely efficient for you. And
Mm-hmm.
then kind of just go into like why you think your solution is better and like how you can help. Or you can hit them with like, oh yeah, maybe if you do know like what that solution is, you can ask them like maybe about a specific problem that you know other companies who are using that software have. Like, oh yeah, you guys are using for example, Zoom Info. Okay, I do know I have talked to a couple clients using that. They said it works really good. How is the phone numbers on there? Like, how is like the accuracy of them? Like, if you really know a minute or small problem about it, you can ask them about them. They may say, "Oh yeah, that is the only drawback. It's not the best," and then just go back into your pitch. So
Mm-hmm.
that, and then too, like, it just send me some information is when you're always gonna hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
With that,
That one pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, it does.
But yeah, no, those are good ways to handle subjections. If you're looking to get into tech sales, just start listening to live cold calls on YouTube. That's what I did. You know what I mean?
Really.
Just listen how to handle objections, and get the reps. You know what I mean? Get the reps in, and you know, um, it's not easy. You know, especially when you're cold calling. People don't like being cold called.
It's really tough at first,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Let's talk about um, what should a current SDR do if they're looking to promote to an account executive. Well, let's
Right.
talk about the difference between the two first.
Okay. Yeah. So as an SDR, that's usually entry level. And the main goal of an SDR, depending on the company, is to like fill up the pipeline, generate leads. But honestly, mainly is just like scheduling, putting more calls on the calendar for your account executive. And you can put those calls on the calendar, like we talked about, through cold calling, email outreach, LinkedIn messaging, or even if it's like an in-person office or like a conference and you just show up, maybe meet them for coffee or drop some pizzas off, like, and just shake some hands, meet some people. You can get some appointments that way too. But your main goal as an SDR is to fill up the account executive's calendar, and then the account executive is going to get on a video call and pretty much walk them through a demo either of the software or they're going to do a lot more qualifying, see what their pain points are, and they're going to be a little bit more knowledgeable about the product and the solution, and then they're going to try and close them and sell them on becoming a new client with the company.
For
And then
sure.
account executives also make more money too. So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
biggest difference I see.
yeah. That's definitely enough. What do you call it? Motivation to try to promote. Um, so how does someone promote from SDR to account executive? Like what should a current SDR do right now if they wanted to be promoted to that next level?
Yeah, so the main thing is like hitting your quotas and your numbers. As long as you're hitting those, like usually you're going to be on track within your first year to get promoted. And I would say outside of that, like if you want to get promoted faster, then one, shadowing an account executive. So like just watching them like and repeating. And if you can pick the top account executive at your company and just literally from like word for word, watch how they pitch clients, like ask them, hey, can I jump on this call? I see you've got on the calendar and then two, like just more outreach. Like if you're doing more outreach, you're gonna set yourself. apart from the other people on your team too. So even if you're closing the same amount, eventually it's gonna kind of start snowballing of just you put in more numbers, you put in more work, you talk to more people. So I would say just increasing your outreach is the second thing. And then the first thing is just shadowing another account executive and learning and then repeating and replicating as much as you can from them.
Mm, okay. Yeah, the company I'm at right now, everyone is so welcoming to like, yeah, like let's hop on a call or like, let's have a quick meeting or whatever. And they're always more than willing to let me hop on like their meetings as well with prospects. But yeah, that's definitely solid advice, Sharif.
I'll add one more too.
Go ahead.
Pitch practice, like either with your manager or with the other account executives too. Like
Hmm.
after you start shadowing them too, just ask them like, "Hey, you got a quick like 15 minutes, 30 minutes? Can we just do a quick pitch practice?" And pitch them like there's a client. They're going to throw different objections at you, and they're definitely going to tell other team members like, "Oh yeah," they'll probably see it on the calendar like you guys have a pitch practice set up, and it's
Hmm.
just going to make it look like you're working harder and you're learning more.
Mm, that's definitely huge. How much harder it is to be an account executive than it is to be
Mm,
a sales development rep?
it might be easier. I'm not gonna lie. Because you're not doing as much outreach. Pretty
Yeah.
much, you're kind of getting like, I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to do your own like outreach some, but especially at some companies like where they've got big SDR teams and they're just funneling your calendar, it's kind of easier because all you have to do is like perfect your pitch
Hmm.
and really just learn how to handle the different objections. And all you have to do is jump on the meeting and close them, and then you're gonna get a commission check for it too on top of your base. So
Mm. I know
I would say
you're.
it's easier.
That's actually that's lit.
Yeah, it is.
I know you were talking to me about when we were on the phone yesterday. You were talking about how you were going to your interviews for different account executive roles.
Mhm.
How are those? I know you told me on the phone, but like break down those interviews. Like, um, is, is there a difference? Like, if I was promoting up for my company to account executives, are those interviews different if I was like an outside applicant?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say the main difference is if you're not already an SDR in the company and you're being promoted to an account executive, they're going to hold you at like a more stricter standard. They're going to be
Mm.
expecting more from you because you're already going to be behind the ball of you have to learn the company's new solutions and how they sell and the different sales processes. Then the main thing, I say the process is a little bit longer for the account executive too. Sometimes I've had like 4 interviews because one, obviously, I want to make sure like you've got all the basic sales skills. Like if need be, you know how to generate your own leads and like build your own pipeline. But two, like they want to see how do you kind of control a conversation? How do you close the interview? How do you like start the interview? And then I've even had some account executive interviews where I've had to like demo like Airtable or demo other softwares, do different mock pitches. And I've also heard some crazy questions like I was telling you yesterday, we played 21 questions, me and a CEO. They were like, I'm thinking of something yellow. You have to guess it. And it ended up being a banana. So I think it took me like 10 guesses though. I'm like,
That would have
I
been my
think he
first
said,
guess.
yeah, it was either that or pineapple. I was going to guess pineapple,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I've heard that. I've had other interviews for these positions where like the call is on my calendar, but there's no meeting link and I didn't get a call. So I actually had to like find their number and I called them at the time and he was like, good job, you passed the first test.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
thinking, I'm like, well, you weren't gonna call me?
That
We had the interview set up. So they get really creative for sure on the
is pretty
email.
creative. That's pretty creative. It's like
Yeah,
because it feels like they're testing you to see like okay like how much do you want this job?
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Like you should network more, talk to more people at the company. If you know someone in the company, obviously that's gonna give you a boost and an advantage. But like I say, like just in my tips and videos, if you have an interview coming up and you want to be on the sales team, reach out to other SDRs or other AEs and just ask them about interview tips, ask them about the culture, the work environment, and then you want to relay that to the actual hiring manager that you reached out and made that connection because it will help you stand out as well. But another thing like most people don't know about is on LinkedIn, you can actually search people by a specific role at a past company. So another thing you can do is like maybe you've got an interview at Gong coming up. You can see who used to work at Gong in this position and then ask them like,
Mm.
hey, how did you like it there? Why did you leave? Just so you can get a lot more of an unbiased kind of like look on the company and take some information from them too.
No, that's huge. That's huge. Being in tech sales, you kind of, if you're looking for it, or you may have come across that um, there are a lot of layoffs. You know, I know. You were affected by that as well.
Yeah.
How like is that scary, or like what goes through your mind when you hear that stuff as a current SDR or even account executive? Like, just to me, when I got the job, I knew that going in, like, oh, there's a chance I could get laid off.
Right.
Um, and you know, I'm praying that it doesn't have to happen, but obviously it could happen. But like, how does that feel like as I guess, a current, employee in tech, like in tech
Yeah.
sales?
I would say it's definitely scary. Just with like the looming recession and like the SVB bank and just all the stuff that's going on, like with the economy, the tech industry as a whole, it's definitely more competitive now and not as secure as it was, say, like in 2020 when we had like the great resignation and there were just people just handing out jobs, handing out sign-on bonuses, like giving out equipment. So it's definitely a different kind of tech space we've seen, but I do think in the next, I would say by the end of either this quarter or just I would say in the next like year, we'll see a little bit of a bounce back because AI is booming. And the one thing I do like about tech is when tech kind of has a decline, there's always new companies that will pop up, new startups that have
Mm,
more optimized solutions for like the economy and the world that we're in. And that's why I like your experience will transfer very well, even if you have been hit by a layoff at a company, there's usually another company that's looking for that talent.
mm,
But like I'll say for myself when it happened, being like a 60-person startup, I think they had let go like 25 of us. And we kind of, at least I could kind of see the writing on the wall if it was
mm,
coming, just because like, for example, our performance reviews were pushed back an extra month. And even like the CEO has said a few times, like, hey, all hands on deck, like our financials were in the red for the last quarter. So, I mean,
mm,
there's definitely signs that you can see, and honestly, that's why I kind of advocate for always getting on interviews, always sharpening your skills, because even if you didn't have to worry about layoffs and say you wanted to stay at a specific company for 5 years, you're not going to get paid as much as if you would have maybe stayed at a company for 1 year or a year and a half and then job hop to another role. That's the quickest way to move up in tech is
mm,
just by taking your experience and then finding a higher role too. So
No, those are those are solid advice, Sharif. Um, Thanks for sharing that. Want to shift gears here. Want to wrap up here in a second. But like, the whole purpose of my podcast is, I'm big into self development. You know what I mean? Um, and I want to hit, every guest that I bring on, I want them to hit one of these five categories. They're either
okay.
going to talk about something spiritually, they're either going to talk about something that helps them mentally, how to sharpen their mind, anything physical, anything social, and financial. So those are like the five areas that I like to hit. So like a guest that I bring on, they're gonna hit one of those categories. And for you, I feel like you hit a lot of the financial side of things. Um, but I'm curious to know about you personally. You know, because the last, what, 3 years, pandemic happened and whatnot. For me, like, I've been in the mindset of like, I need to generate and create wealth. And so
Same.
whenever something like a pandemic happens, or whatever. Use your imagination. Um, whenever something else like
Right.
that happens, you want to be prepared. You want to not have to rely on a company per se.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're grateful for the companies that we work for, right? Um, but I'm curious to know, like, for you, what's your I don't want to say end goal, but what are you striving towards right now? Because I think I've been following you on social media for a while, and it looks like you know you are um, working towards that as well, like financial freedom. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Do you want to work for a company for the rest of your life, or what does it look like for you, Sharif?
Yeah. So I would say for me, like you hit it on the nose, financial freedom, which one is your time freedom, which is the most important. Time is the only resource that we all have, and it's the like biggest resource we have. And then location freedom. So that's always been my goal. Like I want to own my own time and like own where I have to be at. So that's what brought me into working remote because that at least gives me my location freedom. So even though I know
Mm-hmm.
I've got to spend this time. Maybe I have to wake up at a certain time and put in this effort and energy into growing this person's company. At least maybe if I don't want to be in Michigan, I can go to Europe or I can go to Texas or Atlanta
Mm-hmm.
or I can work from somewhere else. So that was getting my location freedom back. And then definitely time freedom is next. So I think long term, like when I just want to help educate more people about building wealth, like being financially free, and just being able to make money from your computer or make money from the internet because the way technology is going, and like you said, you never know if another pandemic or just any crazy thing could happen in the world we live in. So just being able to have your own autonomy and control of like your situation is big to me personally. And that's just what I want to keep educating people and like with Wealth University and literally how we're on this podcast together, just building my network with other people who have that same mindset, other people who I can call on, like who are successful as well too. So that's really like a big, big thing to me. And that's what I'm looking to do. Like build that network, be financially free, and then maybe start doing some in-person events. Like, say we got a bunch of people hired in the United States, let's all get together and let's talk about what we've got going on. How can we help each other?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the podcasting business. I've got people who are editors. How can we help each other?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's getting property, or like I know people who do Airbnb arbitrage. Like we can all come together and just have a really good ecosystem and learn from each other is the goal.
Heck yeah, and that's one thing I would say I admire about you is that you don't have to do what you're doing. You could have just found your own way. You could have gatekeep all the information, and you could have been living your own life, just as an account executive making six figures. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you're sharing it, and I'm sure you get kickback from it, obviously from your whatever you charge for the course or whatever. But um, at the end of the day, you still didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? And I think that's rare. You know what I mean? There's people that want to gatekeep a lot of stuff, but
No gatekeeping. No
yeah,
more
bro, like
gatekeeping. That
let's
has
bring
to
each other
stop.
up. You know what I mean?
We have to.
We have to bring each other up. We have to help each other out. We have to, share information that's gonna help everybody. You know
Definitely.
what I mean? And granted, when you do that, there's obviously going to be some people um, that can get the information and do nothing with it. You know what I mean? Or they can get the information and not use it in a good way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah, no, definitely admire you for that, Sharif. Super, super noble of you to do that. But yeah, I'm the same way. That's why I have this podcast because if I could bring you on and you could put people on the tech sales game, and that can help them build that foundation that they need in order for them to build that time freedom, the financial freedom, the location freedom, just anything that's going to be building towards their personal autonomy, but not I there's value here. You know what I mean?
Definitely value.
Uh,
You got to build a good team and a good network around you. Like before we started, we were talking about sports and the playoffs starting. Like you're only as strong as the weakest member on your team. So if you're
mm-hmm,
gatekeeping, you can't bring up your family or bring up the other people around you. And sometimes you may have to like take your circle and move to different places, or
mm-hmm.
just if you want to travel, like you've got to share that information and build that network up. You have
That's
to.
huge. Actually, there's actually one more question I want to ask. Since we're on that topic, you good on time?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, when you start like leveling up yourself, and like you said, sometimes there's people that are in your circle or who've been around you that may not align to that growth that you're on, right? Did
Mhm.
you ever experience that at all?
Mm, I would say a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe a little bit, I would say, definitely. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of life. Like as you grow, like you may grow in a different direction than other people
Mm-hmm.
grow, but I feel like you still at the least can like be cordial and still communicate with them.
Right.
But I've definitely had that. Like the way my calendar now is packed and the schedule is booked, like I don't have as much time to like just interact with other people who maybe aren't going in the same direction. So you
Mm-hmm.
definitely have to change the way you move.
Yeah, it's natural. I like how you said that because it is like you can't bring. You gotta let go of some of the stuff, and that sometimes that's relationships. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but yeah, no, that's huge. I think it's helpful for people to know that. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's kind of it. But I do have final questions that I ask at the end of every podcast. The first one's going to be is what do you define as success?
What I define as success. I would say success for me is being able to wake up any day of the week and do whatever I feel like doing wherever I want to do it at. So whether it's a Monday and say I don't feel like waking up and maybe I just want to like play the game. Maybe I just want to play COD. Like having the freedom to do that, to me that's success. Like if you've created your life in the way to where you can do whatever. Maybe you want to go out of town. Maybe you really like some tacos, like out in Miami or out in Florida, and you have the ability to get yourself a flight, and you don't have any obligations to where you can go down there and take like whether it's your partner or your family or the people around you, and you guys can do that together. That's success. Like success to me isn't a number of money you make or kind of the accomplishments, but it's really just being able to do what you want to do in that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's success to me. I think that's what honestly everyone should be striving for. Like there's not really anything special about like once you start making those numbers and making the money, like it's kind of the same of like how do you now manage it? It's similar problems. Obviously it's better, but like
Mm-hmm.
really if you're successful, you can be successful with $1,000 a month if you have the right connections and say you've got a couple Airbnb properties that you don't own, but you
Mm-hmm.
rent them out and then arbitrage them and you can live in different places and then your flights are paid for like through credit. You're only using $1,000 a month, but if you're in Thailand, you can buy food easily with that. You can live easily with that. You can do activities easily with that. So really just having that own freedom to do what you want to do with your time.
Well said, bro. That's definitely I align with that as well. Like doing what you want when you want with whoever you want. That's success.
Facts.
Um, Next question is what do you define as love?
As love, I would say for sure there's a couple of different types of love. So like you've
Mm-hmm.
got unconditional love, you've got like brotherly love or like love between your family, you got romantic love. But I would say, I mean, just a feeling that makes you, I would say, kind of feel whole or like feel full, like something to where you just don't feel empty. So like whatever makes you feel like that, feel full and like passionate
Mm-hmm.
and like where you can just sit back and not be too worried. That's love.
Beautiful. And then the last question is what like why are we here? What is the meaning to this life that we live?
Facts. That's a big one. I like that though. I would say the reason we're here, I mean, I could get super spiritual of like the
Go
reason.
there.
Yeah, I would say the reason we're here is honestly like just to one be better every day and like really be the best version of yourself and then as well like just create families and pass down that knowledge and then like to help other people. Like I would say we're just here as an almost as like an experiment, like just to see how much better we can be or be the best version of ourselves and then help other people to be that best version of ourselves. And like until like whatever religion you believe in until like whether Jesus comes or God comes or whatever, like just be ready so you can be the best version of yourself and see what's next. But I would say that's why we're here. Like just help others see how good we can be and shoot, enjoy life too.
Hell yeah, love that, love that response, bro. Sharif, thank you for your wisdom. Thanks for all the nuggets you dropped and gems. Uh, what do you got next going on, and then where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely. So what I have next going on is just continuing to make the Wealth University and the like job program better every day. So we just added some really cool tools to where we were sending out 30 applications a day. Now we can send like 200 within the same hour.
Hmm.
And honestly, just more networking is going on. Invest Fest is where I'll be at in August. So I'll be networking there out in Atlanta. And just shoot, you can find me at Sharriff2D, Sharriff, and then the number two and the letter D like dog. That's the same thing on all platforms.
For sure. Well, thank you again, bro. I
Thank you,
appreciate you
bro.
so much for coming on. Thanks for changing my life. I know you're changing a lot of other lives as well. You
Man,
are.
appreciate you trusting me.
No problem, bro. And yeah, I know you're changing a lot of lives. I think you're very smack dab in the middle of your purpose, and it's a beautiful thing to see, and to be a byproduct of that. I'm extremely grateful for that. But thank you, man. Sharif, everybody.
Hey, appreciate it. This round one, we'll be back again for sure.
Yes, sir. All right, brother. Well, that was like the official ending to it. But yeah, man, how do you feel about it?
Feel really good. That's
Yeah.
honestly probably the best podcast I think so far. Like
Oh, really?
I like it a lot. Yeah.
What in what terms?
I would just say like one, I know like the information that we covered and just the length of it too. Like we went really deep into a lot of different things. I know we covered a lot. We gave out a lot of tips too, like information wise, and then too like just content wise. The video on both of our sides looks good. I'm sure the audio will be good. So I know we'll have a lot of good content, and my editor is gonna be super happy. He could just be adding the captions and repost these too.
Ah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to get content, or I try to get my guests to talk about things that, when I cut up clips or when someone's listening back to this, like, oh shit, that actually helped me. You know what I mean?
Right. I
And
like that.
so, yeah. Well, cool, man. What do you got going on the rest of today?
Rest of the day, probably hit the golf range, go meet up with my brother, and then after that, maybe watch the game. And outside of that, like I'll probably get a couple little work done here and there, but that's pretty much it. I try and like at least one day out the week make it more chill
Hmm.
because Monday I'm back to it.
Yes, sir.
What about you?
Yeah, it's pretty chill the rest of today. I'm probably gonna edit. I'm gonna try to edit this one, and then maybe work on the intro for it, and then. But yeah, I do all my editing myself, so I don't have
Oh,
the
that's
luxury
good.
like you yet.
Yeah,
how much?
that's
How
good.
much you pay your guy though?
So we started, honestly, I helped him get hired too. And like for
Oh.
probably the first month, he did my stuff for free. And then now I've got him at like 300 a month. And then like incentives for like when the videos do good or like when he brings in like referrals and stuff like that. But um, I mean, depends like if you want long form or short form, like he probably
Mm,
could do it for maybe 750 a month. And that's like unlimited videos. So like,
yeah, that seems about the standard. Cause I have a guy who's down to do it for me too. I'm not on that AE budget yet. You know what I mean?
I feel it. I feel it.
But yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely. That's like the only part I don't like is editing. It takes up so
Yeah.
much time. I'd rather just do
See,
this.
I just don't know how like that. Like I know the basics, but the way like he makes my videos, it's like it's super engaging. So
Hmm.
he does this thing like it wouldn't make sense for it would take me too long to learn it.
Yeah, no, it definitely takes a while either way. Well, cool, man. I'm gonna let you go. Thank you again, and yeah, thanks for bearing with me with all my technical difficulties.
Man, of course, bro. I appreciate it. Like anytime you want to have me back on for sure. And in the meantime, like let's definitely talk more and see how we can help each other.
Yes, sir. I'm definitely down for that. All right, brother. You take care. All right.
All right, bro. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for sticking all the way through. If you enjoyed that piece of content right there, don't forget to like the video. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Comment below your favorite parts, or maybe if you have a question about what was discussed and talked about. Either way, I really appreciate you for being here. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.